what are the things at bare minimum that you would recommend people do when they're experiencing some of these stressors in cybersecurity?
It's something that is not security related, something that's not your day job related. For a long time, did not do that. I burnt out, not early on in my career, but like I was help desk for a long time, sysadmin, pulling night shifts, doing Patch Tuesdays, putting out fires, but then also like really diving into security. And every time I would go on vacation, it would be to a security conference. I did the podcast. I did extra projects. I wrote the book. I did like all of this stuff that was me still sitting in this chair, still looking at this screen. It may have been a different screen, but it nonetheless, same thing. Do something else. That is one just like all-encompassing thing that you can say that will get you away from the screen that you're on. I even say, sure, gaming can be a good outlet, but still do something that isn't screen related. Cooking is a great example for me. I love exercise like walking, kayaking. I live right on Lake Erie, so we go on the lake in Ohio when it's not winter.
When it's winter, you could walk. You don't need a boat.
Kind of, yeah, sometimes, for sure.
Hey, this is Dave Johnson.
And I'm Tyler Zito.
Welcome to the Job Security Podcast. We're here to explore the unique perspectives and stories of the people who make this industry what it is, whether they realize it or not. Cybersecurity requires a whole host of different mindsets to solve complex and sensitive problems. It requires planning, predicting and mitigating risk, and communicating with people who have completely different areas of expertise in emergency situations. This industry attracts a lot of unique thinkers and non-neurotypicals, many of whom experience the world in ways that may be completely foreign from the average person. Additionally, the work that we do, which is commonly highly confidential, ever-changing, and sometimes bumps up against organized crime, despite the majority of us being civilians. The combination of these unique stressors and differences in experiencing reality can in turn create some pretty complex mental health problems. It can be difficult to find mental health professionals who also understand what we're dealing with, or even recognize that something might be a problem to begin with. To discuss this and what the cybersecurity community is doing to help these issues, we have Amanda Berlin on the show today. Amanda is a prominent advocate for mental health in the technology community and the CEO and co-founder of Mental Health Hackers. When she's not leading this vital nonprofit work, Amanda is a cybersecurity leader currently serving as a senior product manager at Blumira. She's a co-author of the Defensive Security Handbook, co-hosts the Breaking Down Security podcast as well. Amanda, welcome to the Job Security Show.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks for being here. So this year at DEF CON, I spent a lot of time visiting different villages. When I walked into the mental health hackers village this year, and I saw the free hug sign initially, and I was like, that sounds good to me. Let's go in there. And I immediately picked up what you were putting down. I saw a lot of things that are necessary for us to be talking about or making people aware of in the cybersecurity community that were being actively discussed or presented or promoted. And I really wanted to learn more about what the mental health hackers were doing. Also, admittedly, that is the first time I had actually seen the Mental Health Hackers Village. So I was curious, how long have you been organizing this and producing this village at DEF CON?
So first questions first. Did you get your free hug?
I did.
Okay, good.
It was excellent.
That's the most important part, right? Technically, we were not a village this year at DEF CON. We were part of the Blue Team Village, right? So they graciously gave us one of their extra rooms that they had as their quiet room last year for us to run our space in. We have outside of DEF CON in other aspects ran it at DEF CON before, but never officially at DEF CON until this year. Prior, however, we've been running the nonprofit at other conferences since 2017. So we've been a nonprofit since then, and have been running, you name it. We've been kind of all over the States. I've been to New Zealand, the UK, Germany, Switzerland. There's been like lots of places that we've run this village at. And it kind of started in Louisville at DerbyCon 3, maybe 4, whatever year it was that I happened at DerpyCon. So it's been quite a while that we've been running it as a nonprofit.
For the listeners who are not familiar, can you describe what the Mental Health Hackers organization does?
Sure. Our motto is hackers helping hackers. The idea is, I always start out saying that I'm not a mental health care professional. It's just like a side hobby of mine. I love psychology and learning about all of that, but my day job is definitely security. All the things that I say are just based off of, friends of mine stories and my own personal struggles and that kind of stuff. But it was started out of me talking about my own like depression and anxiety and imposter syndrome and everything else in the space, and other people being like, oh, it's not just me that's having this problem. There are others that are struggling with this. And then it kind of just became this accidental nonprofit and village. And what we do is our main thing is we run villages of conferences, mostly cybersecurity conferences, and we have content from other people in security as well as mental health professionals that give talks about their own experiences. We've had talks, for example, on people that talked about how organizing their pen test results helped with their ADHD, or we've had people talk about traumatic brain injury. We've had people that are actually trained in yoga or meditation, but also in cybersecurity give workshops. So it's this very large crossover in mental health and wellness and security. Right. So we do all of that. And then we also provide as much information as we can from credible sources. So American Psychology Association, NAMI, World Health Organization. We have like all of this information that we lay out for people to take, as well as just like quiet spaces. So you can, when my kids tell people kind of what my nonprofit does, they describe it as like daycare for adults that are geeks. And it's pretty close to that because we have adult coloring books, we have knitting, we have yoga, we have air loungers that you can kind of lay down on, a bunch of fidget toys, snacks, like you name it. It's just kind of like a chill out area that's also just very pro mental health, and not overwhelming.
There's a lot that I've noticed in cybersecurity that we deal with that can cause some unique problems. Thinking about some of my friends who do threat intel, who track down threat actors, etc., and I'll talk with them and they'll kind of discuss the things that they're working on, and you can tell they're dealing with some stuff. And I'd say most of them do have mental health professionals that they talk to, but I frequently get the sense that those mental health professionals also don't happen to be cybersecurity professionals. One of the things that I appreciate about the thing that you've put together, your organization, is that these are hackers helping hackers. So these are people who understand where others have come from. So when I was an analyst, and we were doing very highly repetitive work. This is back in the old days when everything was basically like we had just figured out how to make fire effectively at that point in analysis. And so when I came home, my brain just wasn't working right. I would come home and I just kind of felt dumb and numb. And what I found was that if I started doing something creative, my brain would turn from just pure ingest mode to now back to sort of, I'm a human. I have the ability to not just consume information, but also to create it. So I started effectively hosting dinner parties for people. I would come home, I would look at whatever was in my fridge and pantry, and I would create a gourmet meal out of that. So I had friends, and I'd call my friends and say, hey, come over for dinner. And they'd show up, and it would be like steak au poivre with blue cheese ice cream on top. And they'd be like, this is not what I was expecting. I thought it would be a sandwich. But just that act helped me combat something that I was dealing with. What are the kinds of things that you feel comfortable recommending that people do, like pro tips? What are, like, I don't know, your top 5? Or if there's 10, what are the things at bare minimum that you would recommend people do when they're experiencing some of these stressors in cybersecurity?
I mean, you kind of hit right on it. It's something that is not security related, something that's not your day job related. I, for a long time, did not do that. I burnt out not early on in my career, but like I was help desk for a long time, sysadmin, pulling night shifts, doing, patch Tuesdays, putting out fires, but then also like really diving into security. And every time I would go on vacation, it would be to a security conference. And I did the podcast, I did extra projects, I wrote the book, I did like all of this stuff that was me still sitting in this chair, still looking at this screen. It may have been a different screen, but it nonetheless, same thing. Do something else. That is the one just like all encompassing thing that you can say that will get you away from the screen that you're on. Like, I even say, sure, gaming can be a good outlet, but still, like, do something that isn't screen related. Cooking is a great example for me. I love exercise, like walking, kayaking. I live right on Lake Erie, so we go out on the lake in Ohio when it's not winter.
I mean, when it's winter, you could walk. You
Kind
don't
of,
need a
yeah,
boat.
sometimes
Yeah.
for sure. It doesn't even have to be like crazy, like rock climbing or anything like that. Like you can literally just go walk the dog or go out and like pull weeds or go to the park or whatever.
The thing that I've learned, so as a polymath, I have a lot of different areas of expertise. Cybersecurity is one of them. But what that helps me do, and I've only grown to appreciate it recently, being able to pivot into music, food, 3D printing, design, community work that I do, and various other things, that not only helps me maintain stability mentally, at least I think, it also allows me to be continuously moving. So one of the things that I recommend to other people who don't gravitate towards this naturally is, so if you're somebody that can't necessarily shut down their mind, but you're overthinking on a particular topic, change the topic into something that maybe isn't your area of expertise. Then you've got room to grow, comfort with failure, because you're like, hey, my job isn't attached to whether I'm a good cook or not. But
You don't have to be good,
right,
right? You just have to enjoy it.
right, and sort of it allows you to cleanse your palate and then refocus on the next thing. I remember reading Nikola Tesla did that with some frequency. Benjamin Franklin as well, where they would have a bunch of different projects, all different kinds of things on different tables in their lab. And when they ran out of momentum on one, they would then pivot to the next. So they didn't lose that total mindset there. I've seen some people implement that and found that to be helpful. One thing I was curious about, what are the most common mental health issues that you have seen, like people bring, like, hey, and I realize that you're not a mental health professional, but what are the most common things that you see in our industry, and do you think they're unique, or do you think that they're like just the same thing everybody else deals with, just with like a different perspective?
That's a great question because I've done a lot of medical like research reading. Like I didn't do the research myself. I'm just reading other people's research papers, right? And there's actually a really high occurrence of, and I know this won't shock you, a lot of you, but one, general mental health issues in STEM fields, but as well as neurodivergence. We see it all the time, right?
Yeah, we know we're weird. That's why we're hired, to do the weird things.
Yeah, I collect all those people like Pokemon. Yeah. So yeah, definitely neurodivergence is probably top of that list, as well as just general anxiety and depression, right? Like it's a massive issue in the States for sure. Other countries, depends, but we have all of our own issues. Those are some of the top ones. I've also talked to people with massive OCD. Speaking of Nikola Tesla, like he had some massive case of OCD, which was interesting to learn about, as well as just like bipolar disorder, those kind of just like a little bit less common, but I think people are also less likely to talk about them because they're not as commonly talked about, maybe.
Socially
like
acceptable.
Yeah, there's just like more stigma around some of the other mental health disorders. But ADHD, right? Like people talk about those kind of things all the time. So yeah, at least from my perspective, we see a lot of it. So you don't see as many people with neurodivergence in sales, right? Because especially depending on the person, like you're more likely to uh, gravitate towards things that make sense. And most of the time, people don't make sense. I would never personally be able to do sales. What is on my mind usually comes out of my mouth. And if it doesn't, you can see it on my face, anyways. Does not do well for sales at all. I'm surprised I've made it this long in product. I've been in engineering pretty much for like 20 years, and just for 6 months I've been in product. That's definitely one of them. But you see ADHD and the rest of that, like you said, imposter syndrome, burnout, and yeah, the rest of them pretty much everywhere. Like sea levels too, right? Like sometimes you think like, oh, they got their stuff together, they're high functioning person, they're fine, they might be stressed, but they obviously got there for a reason. But there's a lot of mental health issues in sea levels too. They're just less likely to talk about it because then they feel like that will make them look weak and therefore the company look weak and there be less people behind. Like, it's a whole like psychological breakdown of that kind of stuff.
I remember my moment when I was like, I don't necessarily need to care as much about what other people think of me. Am I a good person? First and foremost, do I help other people? Is that a core competency of mine and something I care about? Fantastic. Everything else doesn't necessarily matter. And it was perfect, and it became a lot more comfortable for me to talk to other people about technology or science and various other things that I cared about. And if they didn't care about it, fine. We found new people to talk to. It's not the end of the world. And to your point about how stressful it can be when you're somebody who doesn't necessarily directly enjoy interacting with lots of other people. When I was about 16, I was running a small repair shop, cybersecurity and IT repair shop, and with a couple of friends of mine. And I recognized I was walking home from school, and I was like, out of my friends group, I'm the only one who actually like genuinely enjoys talking to other people, where my friends try to avoid it. And right around the same time, I saw the movie Office Space. If you remember, one of the characters makes it a point to say, what is your job? And he says, I talk to the customers so the engineers don't have to. And now I do that for a living, basically. And I love that at one point the wherewithal kind of helped me gravitate towards that, and that I get to do what I really love on a daily basis, which is help people solve cybersecurity problems. But to your point, there's a lot less mental health risk in sales, especially when you're like admittedly a sales engineer. When you are somebody who's doing incident response, when you're somebody who is tracking down criminals, that's not as safe a job for your brain, especially since most of the people I've talked to don't have professional training in whatever is necessary to be like, I would imagine law enforcement, but people with backgrounds in law enforcement have some sort of training to help them understand how to compartmentalize the thing that is awful that you can't unsee on a daily basis, how to separate that from your personal life, or how to deal with it, how to talk to a professional about it. We don't have any of that. Not that I've seen. Is that sort of customized mental health discussion? Is that something that's been discussed within the mental health hackers group, or something you've seen before?
Yeah, and it has. That's a great point because I have talked to a lot of people that want to know, how do I find a therapist that I can actually talk to, and they it's h- it's easy to talk to the therapist about kind of generally what happened, right? But when you get into like, well, this specific technical thing happened that led to this, that led to that. And that's how I came up, like the whole story building there really matters sometimes. And not all therapists are good, first off. Like we can just say that for sure. Not all therapists are going to be good for you, right? It's definitely like, glass slipper kind of time. You're not rarely are you going to, like the first time you try a therapist, going to find one that's good for you. But trying to find one that can follow along sometimes with the technical conversation. I know people that have specifically searched for that. There are some that are out there that have switched from a technical background and like, you know what, never mind. I'm going to go back to school and become like a psychologist or counselor, therapist, whatever. But those are kind of few and far between. But there's oddly a decent amount of overlap. At DEF CON even, there was a lot of mental health professionals that came into the room, like even on accident. So I don't know how many didn't find us, but it is amazing the amount of husbands, wives, brothers, sisters, children, whatever, that are related to somebody that came to DEF CON that are in mental health fields. I do wonder if it's something that is a conversation that's happening in like mental health professional circles. Like, hey, how do we help these tech people that are going off through all these stressful events?
Do you have a way or to connect those professionals that have that awareness of cybersecurity to people who need that specific awareness?
I haven't yet. I've actually thought about doing that. If anybody out there wants to help, I'm always looking for volunteers. I think that would be a decent undertaking, but so many times people don't want to help. And it's sharing those connections and like creating a community. Now we have the community that follows us along to conferences and stuff. We have our own Slack server that we're lots of us are members of, if anybody wants in that, but nothing officially yet. One of the papers I read was about how well peer support works and how it's been proven to work. And it was all based off of just people's outlook and mental health and everything getting better if they have a community to talk to. And if they have like a trusted advisor or friend, or versus not having anyone or just having a professional to talk to, how much of a difference that can make. We also, like all of our board members, as well as a lot of our volunteers, have taken mental health first aid. And it's kind of just like, I think it's an 8 or 16-hour class. Many places it's free. You can check it on their website. It's like sponsored by grants a lot of times. Sometimes it's like $100, whatever. And it is you come out of it with kind of that same, like, not as like a full first responder, right? But it's, if this person is not breathing, or if this person is shot, like I know how to apply a tourniquet, or I know how to do CPR. It's the same thing for mental health. Like I know how to spot someone in crisis, and I know how to suggest or get them help or something similar, right? If it goes kind of above that, this is going to be more than just coffee. And it's a really, really good class. I think it actually came out of Australia, but it's been in the States for quite some time. And it's a great program. That's one of the things I would love to do next year at DEF CON, is actually offer that class, and actually like have mental health and like nurses come in and give that class to like a group of people at DEF CON. I think that'd be great.
So you have that planned. Do you need additional like funding to make that happen? Is that something that just that's the current barrier? Or is it more volunteers? How can we help?
A little bit of both. Time, money, organization, volunteers, like all of that is needed, because like I said, I do this after my day job, right? Like my Blumera is great at like, they don't care if I come on and do this during the day, right? They don't care if I go to a conference and run the village. Like they're great as far as that goes, but we don't get paid to do the nonprofit stuff. Any money that we get completely goes back into giving things back to the community, running events. I even try and pay for as much of my own travel as I can. So sponsors are always needed, just because, things are expensive, right? Like getting people, like we do massage therapists sometimes, to get a massage therapist to come in is around $2,500 a day.
So if somebody listening to this episode wants to volunteer time or volunteer some sponsorship dollars, what is the best way for them to do that?
So you can head over to our website. It's mentalhealthhackers.org. And we have contact information on there. You can also email us at sponsors@mentalhealthhackers.org. We're on most of the social platforms. So LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, all of the other ones. I think if Mental Health Hackers isn't, I am personally, and contact us really through any means necessary. And we have a ton of information. We even do what are called ambassador kits, where like I can't travel to every cybersecurity conference that's out there, and neither can our board members. So we'll actually ship full blown kits of what we do, along with descriptions of like how the flow goes, what the room should feel like. That you're not supposed to, give out health advice, but like all of that stuff is in the kit, and we can ship it to you and just like have these things at events. And we do that all the time too. I think we have 4 or 5 different kits that we ship out to all over the place.
So just to change topic just a minute, something I realized I wanted to ask you about, the one of the things that is part of our industry is, of course, are the companies that hire us non-neurotypicals to do all the cyber in the IT. Is there anything that you've identified that businesses could be doing to better support some of the mental health initiatives that are specifically important to cybersecurity folks? I realize mental health is something that everybody with a brain might have an issue with, but specifically to our community, is there anything that businesses should be doing better?
I don't know if there is specific to our community. I have a lot of recommendations. Like, for example, I think it's workplacementalhealth.org has actual like mental health programs that you can uh, walk through and learn from. They even go down to specifics like what codes should you make sure your healthcare plans cover, right? As far as getting therapy or whatever, right? And I have a whole talk track on like what you can do as employees. As employers. But that's one of them, is just having something and giving options to your employees. I don't know. You kind of talked about some of the stuff at Expel, but we have this thing where it's called the free for all, where 4 hours a week you can just nope out, and like you don't have to put it in. You don't have to. You just like tell somebody like no, instead of like flipping your desk over, you'd be like, you know what, I'm taking my 4 hours right now and I'm done for the day, and no questions asked, no hard feelings, nothing. The rest of the team is like, yep, we got you. Like you go for it, and we'll cover the rest. It's just things like that, just the options of doing that. Culture is really hard. However, I've talked to a lot of people where they're in a fairly toxic culture, and making changes like that from the ground up is almost impossible. It has to come many times from leadership. They have to like take ownership and show like by doing that that's what the culture's like, and you're not going to be fired just because you're like, I have to go to my therapy appointment, or like I'm having a really bad day, I'm going to take it off. So that's a really hard thing I know that a lot of people struggle with.
One other thing I was curious about. Um, we were at Denver Wild West Hackin' Fest.
Oh yeah.
So had a great time. That was a fantastic conference, and the entire time I was thinking I was there. I was periodically my brain would pivot to, hey, this community's really come a long way. I see a lot of people from different backgrounds and different perspectives and conversation throughout this. And it made me feel really good. Having been in this community for a long time, I remember the old days when it was just entirely ego driven. It felt like there was a lot of people in the industry who were not necessarily forces of good. And John Strand came out on stage and he said exactly what I was thinking. He was like, hey, back in the day, it wasn't great. There was a lot of room for improvement. And now we're seeing a lot of the community change the industry. So you mentioned a lot of that has to come from leadership. We're also seeing changes within our community that I think are causing that uphill change to occur as well. Have you noticed the same thing? Like, is it just me?
Yeah, I definitely have. And John is a great example of that. He is an amazing person. And I love what he has done with the conferences he runs and the businesses. I'm also an anti-siphon instructor. And it's people like that, right? Like the reason I got my start in security, like I was doing sysadmin, admin stuff for a while. But the reason I got my start in security is Dave Kennedy, before everyone knew who Dave Kennedy was, he's local to me and came and did a pen test at the hospital I was working at, and gave me a ticket to the first security conference that I ever went to. And I met some amazing people, but definitely outside of that conference, like online, like the reason I came up with my handle online is because they're like, well, when you're on IRC, you should never let anyone know you're a girl. Fair. At the time, not a great idea. But the community I got into at DerbyCon was like my long lost family, right? They just had that vibe of you belong. I'm not, no one's too good for anybody else. Like they'll just sit and talk with you over a beer or chess or in the hallway at a talk, whatever. And I think that kind of stuff that like Dave did and John's doing and all is spreading. And it's definitely better than it used to be. Like the different kinds of villages that are at DEF CON now definitely don't compare to when I started going to DEF CON.
My first DEF CON was, I think it was DEF CON 9. So back at the Alexis Park.
Way earlier than me. I think mine first one was 20.
So when I first walked in, and I'm by myself in Las Vegas, I'm 17, and I first walk in and it is just all sorts of substance abuse and shenanigans, etc. When you first walk in. DEF CON is not that anymore. It is tremendously approachable. There's a lot of value that you can get out of going to not only the talks, but the villages as well. And I am really optimistic for what the current generation of cybersecurity professionals, even people who are going to become cybersecurity professionals that haven't yet, what they're going to be able to experience. There's a lot more positivity. There's a lot more training and available information.
It makes a lot of people, not a lot, it makes a subset of people very angry.
I'm not one of those people. I mean, I remember when a lot of the information that we were learning was compartmentalized, where people would only share it with you if you were cool. I was never cool. So I had to come up with information on my own, and I had to, do my own lab experiments, do my own trial and error. And then I eventually found a group of people who were kind of in the same boat. We were the less cool people, I guess. And then we started collaborating and sharing, and we built community. We built ways for people who would otherwise not be part of cybersecurity to potentially enter into it, to learn. We hosted a conference that was a combination of maker and hacker conference. And we had people who were of the maker persuasion who came in, and all of a sudden they're learning cybersecurity concepts, recognizing that these are not that dissimilar, and being able to apply it. And I don't know, those are just positive things we try to put out in the world. Thinking about mental health now and compared to what it was, there's a lot of, not only in non-cybersecurity realm, there's a lot of progress in that regard. From what I've seen, there's a lot of services that are available. There's online counseling and mental health services that people may not be aware of that they have in their insurance. So whoever you work for right now, take a look at your current insurance coverage. You might have services that you may not be using. It can't hurt to give them a call. Sometimes there are alternative therapies that are available within the newer insurance services that I've seen. It's worth taking a look and seeing what things might be available to you that you're not leveraging for anybody who's thinking about this. Also, mental health professionals are hard to find in person as well. So you might have better luck talking to somebody remotely. One other thing, physical health. There is a direct connection from physical and mental health. I am admittedly terrible at doing physical health things.
So for me, I do all kinds of things. I think the big thing is just don't be afraid to go to a class. Don't be afraid to try something new, watch a YouTube video. Like that's how I started yoga. I started yoga by watching it. Yoga with Adrian on YouTube. It's fantastic. You can be a beginner and suck at yoga and still get a great workout and a great stretch. And it's fantastic. I never thought I would be a big yoga person. And now I was always a very clumsy child. I would always fall on things and break stuff. I was always in the hospital. I fall a lot less now and trip and hit a lot less things since I've been doing yoga. And I do it like twice a week. It's not even that I do it all the time. That works for me. And just like whenever I can move, I do something to move.
For me, I did a couple of HIIT classes a while ago because my wife was like, hey, there's this high intensity training stuff. You should go and do it. I felt better, right? I was doing the physical health thing. It was also a lesson in humility because there were folks who were easily twice my age that were absolutely crushing it. And they were so kind and they were so helpful. They're like, hey, you can just try it this way. It looks like you're struggling.
My Pilates instructor is like a 75-year-old, 90-pound woman. And she could probably kick my butt.
Well, Amanda, thanks for being on the show. Thanks for helping us better understand what Mental Health Hackers is doing. For anybody listening, please go to mentalhealthhackers.org. Volunteer, sponsor, for any marketing companies or marketing teams looking for opportunities to sponsor. This is a great one. We'll see Mental Health Hackers at a conference near you.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Job Security Podcast, sponsored by Expel MDR. This podcast was co-hosted by Dave Johnson and Tyler Zito and was produced by me, Ben Baker. If you've enjoyed what you heard today, please consider giving us a glowing 5-star rating and review on your podcast app of choice. And be sure to follow us on YouTube for more cybersecurity content at youtube.com/@expelsecurity. We'll catch you next time.